Hi folks, Paul from Australian Outback Proving Grounds, and I'm really excited. I mean really genuinely excited, and I'm doing my best not to sound like a late night television shopping host, but I've bought a gimbal, a smartphone gimbal. I've wanted one for almost 2 years, and I haven't gotten one because every single smartphone gimbal out there will not do what I want it to do. They are all powered by lithium-ion batteries, including this one that I've just bought. This is the one I'm talking about, the Aochuan XR Smart Gimbal. The big thing about that is when you buy any piece of equipment, price, what it can do, what it can't do, what its physical limitations are, such as its dimensions, its weight, everything like that, they are all second considerations, or at least that's what they should be. The primary consideration is, will it survive, will it thrive, will it endure the environment that I want to use it in? And the answer for me is no. Every single gimbal on the market fails that one test for me, with the exception of this one. And the reason is simple. Every single gimbal on the market out there that I've seen, and I've seen an awful lot of them, has a built-in lithium-ion battery. Enter this one. The only gimbal that I've ever seen that has interchangeable batteries. Yep, that's as simple as it makes no economic sense to buy a gimbal that will fail and that you can't repair, and it doesn't make environmental sense either. The last week of spring, not even summer, we had temperatures of 46 and 47 degrees Celsius. If you speak in Fahrenheit, that's about 110 degrees Fahrenheit. Pretty hot. Today it wasn't as bad as that. It only got to 40 degrees Celsius, which if I'm not mistaken is about 105 degrees Fahrenheit, which is why I'm out here now in the mosquitoes that come about at the end of the day, because I couldn't do it earlier. I couldn't make a video earlier. The camera device turned off from the heat, and the gimbal, 45 degrees is its maximum recommended operating temperature. So, in short, nothing worked. Now, with regards to the extreme heat that we have here, and the lithium-ion batteries swelling and failing, cameras, especially with lithium-ion batteries, and I've had this happen to me. I've had dash cams that failed on me, I've had GPS units that have failed on me. It's all because of lithium-ion battery and our extreme heat. Batteries would no longer hold charge and the swelling could interfere with other components such as lenses. I'll continue with demonstrating what this gimbal can do, can't do, why it's right for me in just a moment. But first, the events of that evening. The Aochuan Gimbal official Facebook page held a question and answer session, and I asked a couple of questions. This is that post from Facebook, and I'm moving through it slowly so you can read it. I posed 2 questions to this Aochuan Facebook Q&A session. The response to the first question baffled me and ticked me right off, to be honest.
Hi Paul, I am sorry, lithium batteries are dangerous goods in international logistics. We cannot sell them separately.
I was a bit miffed at this. For a fact, this directly contradicts what's in the manual. I am not going to let the matter rest with this. This is the entire reason why I bought the gimbal in the first place. I've been searching for a gimbal like this for far too long to just let the matter drop now. Again I replied, this time using a photograph with my comment of the actual manual that came with the box. Hopefully that Facebook person was just uninformed.
This one feature of replaceable batteries was, for me, the major selling point of this gimbal. There must be a way of shipping batteries from point A to point B for you to have shipped it from the manufacturer onto the vendor and whom in turn shipped the gimbal plus battery onto me. If it's the case that you can't retail and ship the batteries, then is there a universal specification for its size and shape? For example, AA, AAA, that I might obtain one from a battery specialist within Australia. I have already purchased these gimbals, so the offer of purchasing with a second battery does not apply to me. In the instruction manual it mentions that additional batteries can be purchased from you. I am in the Australian Outback. The battery will ultimately fail with our temperature extremes. I wish to have a second battery on standby, negating having to buy an entirely new gimbal.
This is the exact photograph of the manual from the post blown up for you to read. At the bottom of this photograph in print will be the contradiction. My understanding of this poor translation is that I can buy replacement batteries from the official website. The manual does have a certain vagueness about it, mostly thanks to its poor translation into English. Also, it's far from comprehensive. I have more to say about this at the end of the video. An easy way to tell when I'm using the front camera instead of the rear camera, the front camera reverses left and right. Thus written words like on my shirt appear backwards. For me to demonstrate to you what the smartphone gimbal can do for me, first I have to demonstrate to you what my camera can do without the gimbal. Here's an important factor. Any smartphone gimbal is limited to the capabilities of the smartphone or camera itself. The gimbal knows that because in its settings there is no toggle to switch on and off image stabilization. For other devices the gimbal does provide that, but with this particular device, the Samsung Galaxy S9 Plus smartphone, at the moment there is no toggle for such image stabilization, etc., because the native camera app, the phone itself, doesn't allow that. Set at this camera's maximum resolution, it does not allow image stabilization. I have 3 videos to show you. The first 2 are shown together for comparison. Walking and filming along the same path with the 2 handholds. The image from the higher resolution is much broader, has more depth, and the picture itself paints 1,000 more words. The video on the right is smoother, but it has less depth to the storyline that the picture portrays. One of my main aims with the gimbal is to be able to combine the best factors of both left and right vision, to have smooth footage at the highest possible resolution. My main purpose for this gimbal is to be able to use it as a remote camera operator, because essentially this channel is a one-man show. And this path that I've chosen for demonstration purposes is a very rocky creek bed. It goes up and down with tufts of grass, depressions in the soil on the track. There's even mud on the track just in front of you, and there's an awful lot of rocks in the creek bed itself. The ground is both unsteady and level shifts with every step. This is a good mean test for both image stabilization and gimbal alike. Now for the third video that I'd promised. This time the camera resolution is set to its maximum of 4K. This has disabled the image stabilization. However, I'm using the gimbal, and you can see from the footage the video is a much smoother presentation. I'm not going overboard with trying to walk smoothly or differently to how I did before. The path that I've taken is the same. Yeah, I am playing around with the stabilizer a little bit, but nonetheless you can see that the footage is much clearer and smoother. I'm in the wrong gimbal mode for this track. I'm in pan follow mode, which doesn't allow for vertical movement of the gimbal and camera. Rushing down this rocky slope results in jumps downward in elevation that the gimbal isn't coping with. But that's again because I'm in the wrong gimbal mode. I will repeat this test in the correct gimbal mode later on in the video. Even here in the rocky creek bed, it's much smoother footage, although that jumping up and down would have been prevented if I had have been in full follow mode instead of pan follow. It works as a remote camera operator. Remember I said that's the main purpose that I had for getting this gimbal? You can see me now, I'm in front of the camera, but I can walk around and the camera will follow me. Because of the wind noise, I'll do a voiceover for this bit. Starting a video recording or taking a photograph can be done remotely by activating hand gesture mode. Here I'm in gesture activated face tracking mode. The gimbal does have impressive planes of rotation, but you do need to have a good sense of spatial and distance awareness, because if you go too far, this happens. If you see the gimbal doing this, just walk back the other way and the tracking will follow you. With hand gesture mode enabled, the activating gesture is the V for victory or peace symbol. Face tracking is a good feature, but it isn't perfect though. It does have a behavioural pattern that you need to be aware of. It works wearing glasses and it works with glasses off. It works with wearing a hat and it works with wearing a hat off. If you turn your head to the side, it doesn't work. And importantly, wearing a face mask, it doesn't work. Face tracking relies on facial features for it to work. The mask deprives it of that. I know that the gimbal's face tracking lost me when I started it looking face on and then turned to profile. Fair enough, I was a moving target when it happened. But it's still a little bit disappointing to know that face tracking can be lost simply by turning my head. It's only a minor wrinkle though, because Aochuan could amend this one day in the future with an update. Gesture control works with the front camera too. I've changed to the front camera by pressing the M button quickly twice. You can see the gesture follows me. Watch what happens here when I turn my head into a profile stance. I was only out of frame for a moment though, so when I reappear, the face tracking captures my image again and locks onto it. Let's repeat the test to be certain. Just turning my head to the side. Stop it. So I'm back. Gesture control has found me again, but I think turning my head to the side stops it. Let's just keep eye contact all the way around. If I was behind the camera, it'd probably work with object tracking, but I'm in front of the camera. I wish to use it as a remote camera operator. The gimbal works with the camera app of your choice, even your device's native one. However, you do get a great deal more functionality if you use the AC Play app, which is the one from Aochuan themselves. You can also use the video editing app of your choice. A variable speed zoom control is found underneath the focus wheel on the gimbal, and even further zoom speed adjustment is available inside the settings of the AC Play app, and if your device has multiple lenses, the AC app allows you to select between those lenses. Further zoom speed adjustment is possible in the app settings, ranging from sharp aggressive speed to dull passive speed. This is Inception mode. At this time, the Inception mode only works with anti-clockwise rotation. However, an app update may possibly address this later. This is a nothing issue for me though, because I can simply reverse the effect in post-editing as I have done here. Now the footage shows the effect in clockwise rotation. By default, after centering, dead straight ahead is the gimbal's level horizon. However, the user can set their own user-defined event horizons. I'm in pan follow mode at the moment, and as the name suggests, this mode allows for panning from left to right and right to left, but locks the up and down axis movement. I'm also using the selfie stick which came with the gimbal. The selfie stick is sturdy and extendable. You can see that with pan follow mode, the horizontal axis is adjustable and variable. I could move the camera to look at something on the left or the right. I could pan around, in other words, but that the vertical axis is rock steady. I could change my custom set event horizon with the joystick, but you have to remember that the camera's angle of inclination or declination is locked steady in the gimbal itself. So changing the angle of the gimbal also changes the angle of the camera. So to change the angle of inclination, you need to either move the joystick or shift the entire gimbal itself. Pick a horizontal line in the carriage. Keep looking at it. The position doesn't change. Even though I'm walking across railway stones and railway tracks where watts level changes with every footstep. Remember that for my smartphone, 4K resolution disables image stabilization. So to summarize, I'm trying to maintain level footage, smooth footage. I'm on rough ground filled with stones where the level changes with every footstep. I have no video stabilization and I'm not really trying. All of that considered, I'm thrilled with the result. Shooting using a gimbal is definitely learning a whole new videography discipline. For a first timer like me, it's definitely going to take a lot of practice. I have to adapt to the new discipline of steering where the camera looks with my hand and wrist and fingers instead of with my whole body behind a viewfinder. This gimbal really is an impressive bit of kit. With it, I'll be able to take smooth, repeatable, consistent footage. The motor speeds are adjustable, but you don't have to adjust them every time. To a certain extent, they are set and forget, and you're able to repeat the shot, do take after take after take until you get it to how you're satisfied with it. And the motor speeds, panning speeds, angle of inclination, everything will all be the same, each and every time, repeatable. Having sung its praises just now, I think I've discovered a problem. There's definitely a very slow drift from right to left by the motors. I'm using a tripod at maximum zoom and in pan follow mode. There's a gusty wind blowing, which is why I'm using voiceover. Perhaps this idiosyncrasy is a result of being at extreme zoom. Perhaps it's a result of it being in pan follow mode. I'll have to do more testing to find out. I'll increase the playback speed to 2 times until I start to zoom out. Back to normal playback speed now. I'm pulling the zoom back. It's a very, very slow pull, and I'll delve further into this drift issue with some testing after I've finished exploring the other gimbal modes. I'm back to a familiar sight now, familiar scene. I'm in all follow mode, as this gimbal calls it, but other gimbals call it full follow mode. And we're heading down there. That's the path that we normally that we took for the other tests. So let's go. And again, I'm not making an effort to walk softly, smoothly, or otherwise. I'm bouncing around in a usual walking manner, just trying to get the job done, trying to get from point A to point B. However, this time you should notice a difference, especially going down this slope. That slope there, no, I'll stop here. I'll recenter it again, there we go. Now, walking down this rocky creek area, this should be a smoother trip than the last time. The last time, I'll stop here, the last time I took this trek, that there was muddy, which is why I took this path around to the side here. Okay, so I'll rotate my wrist, get it pointed to roughly where I want it to go because I can't see the screen. Let's go. Pointed a bit more. I'm following the course of the creek, which is there to there. Familiar looking trees lying on the ground there and rocks and so on. But following it, I'm trying to master the art of navigating with it. With the gimbal. Right, so we're walking this way. And it gets a little deceptive because the camera's pointing in one direction and my body is walking in another direction. But there you go. We're back to this familiar sight and scene now. The rocks in this creek are bigger, the bumps are bigger, the drops are bigger. So in short, if you wanted a good example of how effective this is at keeping level, this is it. And you know that whilst I am watching the ground, trying to work out the best way to navigate over these rocks, I'm doing it at a reasonably quick pace. I'll recenter it. Ooh, I think I changed modes then, sorry. I'll stop the recording to be on the safe side and start again. I had accidentally changed modes, but continuing on the trek now, I'm back in full follow mode or all follow mode. You can hear the rocks, you can see the pace that I'm walking at, and you can see that this is not a smooth path by any stretch of the imagination. This is pretty rough. One tip I will give you, you need to be concise with your thumb movements and button presses, because it is easy to make something unwanted happen. Such as just a moment ago, I tried to recenter the camera and ended up changing gimbal modes. Lock mode has value to me for a couple of uses. When you use lock mode, you lock the gimbal in the position that it was when you started the mode. In crossing the road here, the effect is very apparent. Alas, the gimbal definitely has drift issues. This is set up on a tripod with maximum zoom, all follow mode. Pan follow mode? Aochuan, I hope you're seeing this and paying attention. This is lock mode. It drifted for about a second and a half and then locked steady. Thinking that this drift phenomena might just be a case from maximum zoom, I set this close example with grid lines on the screen. I can see that it is still drifting, even at close range. This video has been going for almost 30 minutes. It's time to wrap it up. I do have a few more points to go over quickly though. I find the English language version of this manual poor. The print is small and the manual is far from comprehensive. To view the gimbal tutorial, you need to scan a QR code. The QR code leads you to your app store to install the WeChat social media app. I wanted the tutorial, so I did install the app, although I resented having to do it. I installed it, then I rescanned the QR code and it still brought me back to this same install page. I had to search within this app to find the tutorials, and the only tutorials that I could find were not in English. I gave permissions to this app to use on my device, and the end result is I still couldn't use it. So I feel a social media app was forced upon me, and when I tried to resign, it told me it would take 60 days to do a deletion of my account. On the back of the manual was this address and contact details. This brings us full circle back to that Facebook page at the start of the video. Generally there were two types of comments on that Facebook post. The first sort was praising the gimbal and how well it worked. There was also a very large percentage of respondents who were asking about an update, how they did it and when they would come because they had features that were not working properly. So the following pertains to the second question that I asked that Facebook post. I both asked the question in email to this address and on that Facebook post.
It seems I'm just echoing a common theme. How do I update the firmware? I use a Samsung Galaxy S9 Plus smartphone. It needs an update because with this device, the focus wheel is not functional. You can't toggle the image stabilization off and on, and switching between front and rear cameras also swaps the joystick orientating controls. Upwards becomes downwards, etc.
Aochuan did reply,
Hi Paul, thank you for your feedback. Please note the focus wheel needs to be used with the app. Also you can change the joystick control way in the setting of the app. Finally, we may update the firmware function in the app in the near future. Looking forward to that and thank you for your support.
the focus wheel is one of the things that does not work well with the Samsung Galaxy S9 Plus. After real world use, I've decided it's not a great thing, because in real world use, you need the screen to use the focus wheel, and damn doesn't the screen go black in the sun. It's good that you can use this gimbal with any app of your choice, because I actually prefer my native camera app for still photography. That may change with future updates and increased functionality. What you see here, plus some cables, is what comes in the box from the start. There are several methods of calibration and I haven't tried them all. One of those may fix up the drift issue. Since purchasing this gimbal, I've seen an absolutely identical one from Bowmaker, also called the Smart XR Gimbal. I can't recommend this because I have no idea whether the internal componentry is the same or not. The Aochuan YouTube channel is actually very good for instruction. However, their instructions are different to the manuals. For example, they both cite different methods of calibration, and it is possible that this alternative method of calibration will fix up the drift problem. I haven't delved into point of view mode because I doubt I will use it much. It seemed to work fine though. A quick rundown though, the joystick control is disabled. The movements of your wrist and hand guide the electronic gyroscope and gimbal motors. Mad Dog mode is just a faster, more responsive version of POV mode. It's intended for fast-moving action, such as when your youngster plays football. I'll be succinct about this. I do not like it. But it's not a big thing for me because I will probably never use it. Why is it so bad? Because it's only active whilst you're pressing the joystick button. So, now it comes down to the crunch. All things considered, would I recommend this gimbal? The answer is a resounding yes, for two reasons. Number one, all of these problems that I've mentioned are fixable by a possible future update. And number two, it's exceptional value for money.